Hello, happy Thursday, happy Wednesday, whatever day it is that you're watching this. Happy day to you. Welcome to the 20-Minute Cooking School. My name is Claire Tansey. This is Claire Tansey's Kitchen. And today we are going to make gravy. So this is the holiday countdown. This is week 3. And we are going to make amazing, smooth, delicious, beautiful gravy. Gravy is one of those things that seems to stump people. Everyone says, really, the issue is lumps. Nobody likes lumps. Nobody wants lumps in their gravy. So I got it. The surefire way that you're never ever going to have lumps in your gravy. So tune in. Let me know if you have trouble with gravy, if you have other issues beyond lumps in your gravy. I'm also going to kind of cover, well, I'll cover, a couple of things. And let me know also if you have any other questions about the holidays. Guys, we are like, it's crunch time now. It is less than a week away. My parents are arriving 2 days. This stuff is getting real right about now. So in order to facilitate the making of gravy, I made a roast chicken so that I would have the kind of stuff that is left behind, which we call drippings, which are the base of gravy. Now, before you get all up in arms, isn't this beautiful? We're going to do roast chicken in January, okay? So save your roast chicken questions for January. But imagine that this is a turkey, big, beautiful turkey that we have roasted. And I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks. So I roast my chicken in a pan. This is my little quarter sheet pan on a rack. My turkey I do in a slightly bigger pan, since my turkey will be 3 times this size. For all my turkey tips and stuff, go to the website, clairetansey.com. I've got all the tips on turkey, how to buy it, what to do, how to brine it, all that good stuff. Much the way I do turkey, I treat my chicken pretty simply. So let me show you my little guy here. He's totally untrussed. I shoved a quartered onion up in there, and it came out of the oven about 45 minutes ago, so a nice long rest. And when you're going to make gravy, one of the important things to do is make sure you get all the delicious juice out of the inside. So I tend to just tip it up like this, and you can quite see what there's lovely stuff coming out of there. Flavor. And then he can just go and sit over there. Remember that this doesn't have really anything specific to do with gravy, but don't ever worry that your roast is going to get cold while it's resting. That's not the issue. Resting a roast is one of the most important steps in cooking, in roasting it. It's got to rest. It's got to let all those juices sort of redistribute in the meat, and that is when you get to take time and make gravy. So I'm going to actually switch. So this is my pan, which is black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape all this stuff into a frying pan so you can see it a little bit better. So that is dripping, and dripping. So dripping is all of the fat that comes off of a roast, as well as this beautiful brown stuff that comes off of the roast as well. So there's little bits of this and that, and if you've put any herbs on the inside of the roast, it'll perfume all of this stuff. Anyway, so you do not want to lose any of this. So if you're not going to make gravy in this pan itself, which you're more than welcome to, you just scrape it all into there. Now, okay, we good? So look at that. Okay, so that's sort of a little bit of liquid and quite a lot of fat. Some roasts don't give you enough fat to make gravy. This isn't looking particularly generous. So what I'm going to do, as I turn the heat on here, is I'm going to turn the heat on to about medium underneath this pan of drippings. And I'm just going to add a couple of squirts of canola oil just to increase the fat a little tiny bit. So the trouble with gravy is I don't really have measurements, because I'm not exactly going to take that out of the pan, measure out the tablespoons, put it back in. Basically, it's kind of a ratio recipe. So when I go to add the flour, it's going to be about equal amount of flour to fat. But we'll get to that in a minute. So as I said, this is the dripping. It is kind of a combination of liquid and fat and like chunks, for lack of a better word. And as I said, I added just a little extra squirt of canola oil so that I would at least have enough fat to make a nice base. All right, if you're just tuning in, it is the 20-Minute Cooking School. We are making the most wonderful gravy. Really simple, just a few ingredients. That's all I got. So if you're roasting a turkey, this also works for beef. This works for any roast that gives you drippings. You can make gravy in this fashion. I heard years ago, the craziest thing I ever heard about making gravy was that you make it in a mason jar. You shake it up in a mason jar. Anybody heard of shaking up gravy in a mason jar and then you put, right? No? Yes? I know, weird, right? Gravy is like, it's just an insignificant sauce. It's just something that you kind of make out of nothing. There's no reason why you couldn't just serve these beautiful pan juices on their own. Making gravy is just thickening it and extending it, so you're actually getting a little bit more out of the delicious drippings. Remember, fat is what transmits flavor, so there's tons and tons and tons of good fat flavors in there. So once the pan starts to sizzle, once the drippings sort of start to get nice and hot, I'm going to, Cheryl, you know about the mason jar trick? I need to know more about this. Once this starts to sizzle, I'm going to go with the flour. So, flour. Now, people, do not, no whole wheat flour, no gluten-free flour, no cornstarch, no corn flour, no all-purpose flour. You can go bleached or unbleached, but you need flour. The flour operates in a chemical bonding, physical, sort of a scientific, you need all-purpose flour, okay? So don't go messing around with any kind of other flour. And if you're gluten-free, there are other solutions. So once this gets nice and hot, so my drippings are nice and hot, see how they're all sizzling there? I'm going to add, this is important, it's gotta be hot. So now I'm gonna add flour, and as I said, I'm gonna add about the same amount of flour as I have fat, and I'm gonna just sprinkle it on. Sprinkle, we're still on the heat here, and this is the point at which I am going to eliminate the lumps. So now this is the point where you have to just kind of pay a little bit of attention and incorporate the flour into the fat 100%. If I was an athlete, I would say 110%. So what's happened here, you can see that the flour has absorbed, and I'm going through and kind of bashing this mixture to make sure that there are no lumps. Because if there are lumps now, there shall be lumps forever. So this is lovely, nice and smooth, absolutely no lumps in there. No worry about overcooking this. So you just keep on moving. Oh, see that? I thought that was a lump. It's actually a piece of chicken. That's fine, he can stay. Okay, so now that that is going, we can talk about, oh, your mom makes it that way with the mason jar. I must talk to her the next time she's walking down the street with the dog. You use butter instead of canola oil to add more fat. Yeah, Roxanne, totally fine to add butter instead of canola oil. I happen to have the canola oil right at hand, but butter would be perfect. So as long as you add that little extra bit of fat, you're good to go. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off the heat for a second. Yes, we have 12 whole minutes. You would all take turns shaking it up. I love it. So let's talk about the liquid. You need liquid to make gravy. I have made some chicken stock here. On Christmas Day itself, we will use our homemade chicken stock, which is kind of like liquid gold. So I won't use that today. This is chicken stock from the paste, which I also love. Delicious. I'm going to add also a swig of white vermouth. If I had white wine, I would use white wine. Somebody drank all the white wine last night. I don't know who it was. Let's see, I'll add a couple of slugs of the, oh God. No, you do not need to resort to powdered gravy. Heavens to Betsy, powdered gravy. That's only for poutine. So I added just a glug of white vermouth. It's kind of my substitute for white wine. You don't have to use wine. You can use nothing. You can just use water even. You don't even have to use stock. You can use water or stock or a little bit of wine or a mixture. But one thing you shouldn't do is don't use red wine because that makes your gravy purple. I've learned that the hard way. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to make it taste bad, but it's going to make it purple. So you're going to really need to dim the lights and light some really pretty candles so that people don't notice that your gravy is purple. Not the most attractive. Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat back on here. All right, now, lump prevention 1, incorporate the fat in the flour massively. That's very important. Lump prevention 2 is this next step. When you go to add the liquid, add it a little bit at a time, and just to be extra double sure, switch to a whisk. There is no shame in that. This is not cooking school in 1826. So gradually and whisk, and put the heat down to like low by this point. It'll just give you a little bit more wiggle room. Okay, so got my little mixture of stock, so a little bit at a time. And now I'm going to whisk. So you see, if I had added it all, I would have had lumps, but I'm adding just enough to kind of loosen the roux from the base of the pan. Now add a little bit more. Things are getting sticky, so I need my hand. All right, so little bit at a time means you're not going to get any lumps. So far, we are lump free and feeling fine. All right, that's good, that is good. Once that liquid is completely incorporated, then I can add a little bit more. I'm doing about a 1/4 cup at a time here. And again, I'm doing it nice and gradual. Now the stock is not hot, it doesn't have to be. Or if you use water, it does not have to be hot. The pan has to be hot. And sure, you could do this with a wooden spoon, but I find it's just absolutely fail-safe to do it with a whisk. Going. A little bit more. So it's this step combined with the incorporating of the fat and the flour together, which is going to give you beautiful lump-free gravy. Gradually, gradually, gradually. You can sing if you want. You don't have to. And then, okay, so now things are getting a little bit looser, so I can be a little bit more generous every time I add a bit of stock. It's a little bit like making risotto in that you're just sort of doing it bit by bit. Here we go. Now, then how much liquid do you add? Well, this is going to thicken up as it cooks. So always better to add a little less than too much, because it's always easier to thin out your gravy than to thicken it. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat back up a little bit. I'm going to switch back to my this guy. And then you can see how it's already thickening up a little bit. You know what? I think I'm going to give it a quick whiz with the spatula just to make sure nothing is stuck to the bottom. I know it probably seems like I'm being kind of fastidious, but listen, I don't want lumps in my gravy. I don't know how you grew up, but my mom never had lumps in her gravy, and she's awesome. And she's coming for Christmas dinner, so I better have this figured out. Alrighty. Nice. So, how are we doing? Great, no questions. You're all watching in rapt attention. So now all I have to do is kind of cook this so that it thickens a bit, and so the flour and the stock and the wine and the yummy and the all kind of like merge together in flavor heaven. So you want to just bring it up to a sort of a gentle simmer, and as that happens, it'll start to thicken up. Hi, Karen Delgarno. I always make stock and flour together first. Shaking up, no lumps. Yeah. The benefit to adding flour to the fat is that, first of all, you don't have to shake it. And second of all, you never have any lumps. I am not familiar with this mason jar trick. And maybe, listen, here's the thing. If you've got something that works for you, then you go, girl. I no skin off my nose. This is sort of the more typical, classic way to make any thickened sauce when you use flour, because there is a worry if you just add flour to water or water to flour, that the flour will kind of form little clumps, and then the water will form a barrier around it and you won't actually be able to break them up. But if the mason jar trick works for you, Karen, then you just go for it. That is awesome. This is really for people who don't feel that they've quite licked gravy. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to show you. There we go. The other benefit of this is that you really can monitor exactly how much liquid you add, and so your gravy can either be as thick or as thin as you want it. So this is starting to look lovely and rich. Nice, and you can see it's just starting to simmer just in there. Come on, gravy. Come on, gravy. So I've used 2 cups of stock. And remember, this is just for a chicken. This isn't for a turkey. So I didn't have that much dripping off of this baby. But this is looking really beautiful. I'm going to stop there. I like a kind of a thick gravy. I'm going to stop there and just let it keep cooking. Now, next question. It's not the right color, right? It's kind of yellowish. Two things you can do. One, decide you don't care, because that's absolutely fine. It doesn't really matter. Dim the lights, like I said. Or you can, of course, add a little bit of color. So my mom used to use that thing called kitchen bouquet, and there was like one jar, and she had the kitchen bouquet in the fridge, and it was probably the same jar of kitchen bouquet for most of my life. I use soy sauce. Very similar, quite dark, and let me show you. I just use a little splash of it, and it also then will add a bit of seasoning. So things are coming along nicely here. And this is just to give it a little bit more of that rich color that we associate with gravy. This is chicken gravy, so it doesn't have to be quite as dark and rich as like a roast beef gravy. But there, you know, just add a little bit of color there, make it a little bit more golden. How are we doing? 4:16, and we have made gravy. What are your questions about gravy, if any? So this is just going to cook out. And then I got to taste it, of course. Tasty. Always taste for seasoning. Yum. Add edible glitter. Yeah. You know, it's funny. Who did I read that was just reading about glitter gravy? Hey, that's what floats your boat. Mmm. Mmm. Delicious. Really ready. Need a little bit of salt. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. Just a little. And voila. So if I wanted this to be thicker, I would have added less liquid. I actually think that's quite a nice consistency for gravy. No lumps, no bumps, no muss, no fuss. A little bit of wine, a little bit of soy sauce. I could add maybe a little bit more soy just to color it up a little tiny bit more. And that, no, we're not doing glitter gravy, people. We're not starting that. Add more flour fat to increase the amount, that would keep it thick as well. Hang on a second. Hang on. If you need more gravy than what it provides, can I add more flour fat to increase the amount? Yes, Mike Tansey. If you need more gravy, just increase the fat at the beginning. So add like another couple tablespoons full of oil or butter, and then match the flour to that, and then add lots and lots of stock, and that will make a ton of gravy. You like a lot of gravy, eh? I also like a lot of gravy. It's never wrong to have lots of gravy, which is why if you're ever really, if you're ever buying your roast and you know that you want to have a lot of gravy, because say you're having 20 people over, ask your butcher if they have a little bit extra of the fat. So if you say, hey, buying your turkey, hey, do you have a bit of turkey fat? Like, because they trim off fat all the time, right, at the butcher. So, or chicken fat or turkey fat, you could just add that. If you have something like duck fat in the freezer, or even bacon fat, if you don't mind the flavor of bacon, any kind of fat will go in really beautifully. And if you're roasting beef, of course, you always get an extra piece of fat to make Yorkshire puddings. That's a different story. That's a different episode. But for now, we are done. We have made this beautiful gravy. I'm going to carve up my chicken. This is what we're going to have for dinner. And remember that, oh my God, if the gravy is piping hot, it does not matter about the roast having rested and maybe coming down a little bit in temperature. So that is it. Any other questions? I don't think I can. I think I've done something on my phone. Guys, I'm not going to see you before Christmas, so Merry Christmas. I will be back next Wednesday. I think I might make martinis or something like that. It's, you know, getting on towards New Year's. Who knows? Maybe we'll make turkey stock. Who knows? The hotline is open for a couple days, so if you need me, I will be on my Facebook page, I'll be on Twitter, I'll be on my email. If you have a question, please feel free to answer. Until then, I'm going to keep posting my sort of common holiday recipes, and thank you so much for tuning in. I hope your gravy is lump-free. I hope your potatoes are beautiful. I hope your turkey is moist and golden, and I hope the wine is cold and flowing. And I hope your family is with you, and if they aren't, then that's good, then that's good. Merry Christmas, everybody, and don't forget that cooking is awesome and fun, and it can be a pleasure and not a chore. We will see you soon. Bye for now.